Okay, great. Now you can give me the host.
Okay.
It says it's being live streamed. Okay, great.
It's preparing it. I gotta wait for it to finish preparing it.
Okay, that's all right. You can. It's in the process
Okay.
because it says now you're being live streamed on YouTube. So
Okay.
I am going to just share the screen so they can see that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, y'all, the board members that's here, you're a co-host. I come back, there's people waiting in the waiting room. I'm gonna put. Morning, everyone that's here. We got 1 minute. No, we don't have CCs here. All right, it's 10 o'clock. Morning, everybody. Hope everyone had a great summer. I'm gonna there you go. So welcome to the first Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council meeting for the school year of 24-25. It's August 8th, and today's meeting only is at 10 a.m. Our meetings going forward will go back to 9:30. These still are our current board members. And the starting off this school year, to remind everybody that, because we're all here leaders on this platform, leadership is not about being in charge. Leadership is taking care of those in your charge. Simon Snake. We are servants to our members. CPAC procedure, standing rules. Everyone was sent this, but I guess since it's the first meeting, I am actually going to run it down, and hopefully by the time I get to roll call, we will have quorum. To ensure that our CPAC meetings are run smoothly, fairly, and in compliance with the CPAC bylaws, we ask you to respect the following procedures and adaptations. Please do not speak until recognized by the chairpersons, who will be assisted in managing the meeting by we don't have a parliamentarian, so it will be assisted by the board. Please limit your comments, questions to 2 minutes to ensure maximum participation by the greatest number of representatives. The board will be monitoring time allotted. Remember that the order of speakers per our bylaws is A, executive board, B, voting members, C, non-voting members. And if this time they are recognized by the co-chairs and assisted by the live stream coordinator, the public. We want to make sure that we hear from as many people as possible during the course of the meeting. Therefore, there'll be times when we do not call on someone who has just spoken. Please understand this is an attempt at fairness. All voting members have first seating preference at the table when in person and virtually on Zoom. Membership must be clearly identified by displaying the membership identification plaque when in person and or in their district number by renaming themselves on the Zoom participants listing reflecting the district he or she represents. Please note that if the president is not present at the table and or on Zoom, the designee is the voted, the voting is the voted representative for that district and is able to vote on matters on the membership. Alternates must have written notice from the President's Council's president/designee or email sent to CPAC at NYCPAC info cpacnyc@gmail.com indicating they can speak and vote on behalf of their district. For the purpose of voting on any CPAC business, only the voting members/designee of your district who is eligible to vote shall be seated at the table and or virtually on Zoom. For additional information on meeting rules and procedures, please refer to CPAC bylaws, which is available upon request, or a copy is available on the website at www.cpacnyc.com. Robert's Rule of Order, newly revised, RONR, is the parliamentary authority used to govern unless inconsistent with these bylaws. So everyone got the bylaws and the standing rules with the meeting docs. So summary of that is you're going to wait to be recognized before speaking. Either put it in the chat or use the raise hands function. We're going to be here, meaning be present. No side conversations in the chat. Let's keep the conversation towards the agenda items at hand. Be respectful, courteous, and professional. And be able to disagree amicably. We don't have to agree, but again, it goes back to being respectful and professional and courteous. Remember, others would like to speak, so be mindful of the time. You have 2 minutes or less to pose your questions or comment. And there's no follow-up. If anyone wants to follow up, you need to raise your hands again. Don't unmute yourself and say you have your hands up. No side conversations in the chat. Don't be disrespectful. Do not allow follow-up questions after your question has been answered. Use the chat that asks to ask follow-up questions or raise your hands again. Anybody has any questions regarding CPAC's meeting rules of engagement? Okay. Now we're going to have roll call. Please place your district, borough, president's council in front of your name. Thank you. District 3.
Present.
Thank you. District 17. District 17. Okay. District 20.
Good morning, present.
Good morning. District 21.
Morning, present.
Good morning. District 22. Okay. District 25. District 25. District 26. District 26.
Present.
Thank you. The next one, District 30. I thought I saw her come in. 30's here. I see. Bronx High Schools. Bronx High School. Okay. Brooklyn High Schools.
Good morning, present.
Manhattan High Schools.
Good morning, Rosa Diaz here.
Good morning. Queens High School. Queens High School.
Present.
Staten Island High School. But she said she wasn't going to be able to attend. I want to note that present with us, besides myself as co-chair, Shirley Obed, we have Adriana Alisay, who is the recording secretary. We have Charlene Dawson, who is the live stream coordinator. We also have Jazzy Rivera, who is the first vice chair. It is the first meeting of the year. I am going to ask, I see 20. Okay, I'm going to ask, District 9, you're not we have not received your election certification form. You do not count to quorum, and you should not be present.
He only threw up because he was crying.
Okay.
He was so scared.
Anthony, I'm correct, right? District 9 is not a current member, correct? Anthony? Or Randy?
I don't have the certification. Anthony's mic is unmuted, but we don't hear him.
All right, I don't, so district, well, talk to you after the roll call. So District 9, you're not a current member. We don't have your certification form.
I'm sorry, Shirley, to interrupt. I know Anthony's mic is not working, but I think he's confirming that he does not have a certification.
Okay, so yeah, so you do not contribute to quorum. It should be on the YouTube platform. So others who are listening on the YouTube, we acknowledge, thank you, Anthony, that there are not current members as of yet. I'm Brandy, let me count. Do we have quorum? Because let me see, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. We got one more. We need one more for quorum. You agree with that? Whom am I missing anybody?
I count 7.
You got 7. I got 9. I got 3, 20, 21, 26, 30. Oh, it's 8 because Bronx is not here. Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island,
Staten
So
Island's not
1, 2,
here.
3. Oh, yeah, yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I got 8.
I wasn't counting 3. My
3.
mistake.
Oh, that's right. Jimmy answered, not the. So 3 is not here. So we also have Jimmy Brown, who is the second VP. So we do got 7. All right. So we don't have quorum. Maybe by the end of the meeting, just get these people to come on. I know Staten Island says they couldn't come on, and I don't think we don't have 2 as well, right? She had emails saying that she wasn't able to come on. But I don't think she's, didn't get her certification form for 24-25. Okay, roll call. The agenda for today, we're going to talk about CPAC business. We're going to have DC Vadehra to talk about foundation aid with Elijah from the Division of Operations and Finance, where DIIT is on the platform, but was asked, we're going to table that for the, that we're going to table that for September's meeting, only because they are working diligently to come up with solutions that complies with the city cyber policy, and to make it less the word is less of a hardship for the parent leaders to do their roles. So we rather them continue to work on diligently to come up with a solution. And the September meeting, they will also talk about cybersecurity, because that's where they were here for June, was scheduled for June to talk about cybersecurity and not the parent emails. But in September, the parent emails will be addressed, right? And I got word that DC FACE is going to make an announcement regarding about the parent emails as well later on the platform, but also they will talk about cybersecurity in September, which makes more sense when most of our parents will be engaged, but coming back into September. Then after that, we're going to hear from Chancellor Banks. Then FACE will give their updates. And then we're going to hear from our FACE liaison, Anthony Settle, segment CPAC Settle, Not So Secret Gems, talk about September and new school year beginnings. So we're going to skip the minutes for now, and probably we'll come back to that if we end up getting 3 more people. So the first thing we want to remind going into things, even though it is the summer, work is still being done. In regards to the DCEP, the high level calendar about development of the district comprehensive education plan, submission and review. So by July 31st, superintendents had to complete the 23 last year's school year's district comprehensive education plan self-assessment and submit their district's preliminary 2024-25 DCEP for Central to review and feedback via the iPlan portal. So by August 30th, DSL Central team reviews the preliminary 24-25 DCP to provide support and feedback for superintendents and district teams. And then by September 6th, and this is fluid, sometimes they postpone dates, but this is what the current dates are right now. Superintendents receive feedback on the preliminary DCEP for the current school year of 24-25. Then between September and November, the superintendents, the district leadership teams, and stakeholder representatives revise the 24-25 district comprehensive education plan and iPlan based on feedback received as appropriate. Then this mirrors a little bit of the comprehensive education plan submission timeline for the next school year. During the month, I know that they pushed back to July 12th and to June 14th a little bit, but now we're in August. Principals must complete their online attestation in iPlan, stating the annual goals, which should align with their preliminary school-based budget. By July 26th, the superintendent certified the alignment of the comprehensive education plan and annual goals with the preliminary school-based budgets. Between July and August, the superintendent teams with support from central office collaborate to review preliminary CEPs and L documents and provide feedback through the iPlan. By September 5th, the principal will receive feedback on their 24-25 CEP, the LTI, the L, the MLL, multilingual language, English language learners, documents provided by the superintendent teams. And then it goes into October. Again, sometimes they make adjustments, but this is the basic steps on development and submission of the DCEP and the CEP. Please, as mandatory members of the SLTs and DLTs, please fill out, please keep abreast of what's going on, both on the DCEP and the school, the comprehensive education plan, respectively. Here, President's Council election certification form, we only received 12, maybe it's 13 now, because we received Staten Island high schools. This has to be filled out. This is what should be used, the President's Council election certification form. And this is very important, that who is sitting on the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Committee, if it's other than the president, because you might have co-presidents, you need to dictate who's sitting on CPAC, who is sitting on the district leadership team. For our purposes, we need to know who is sitting on the Chancellor's Parent Advisory Council. Calendar dates were shared with everyone. Here are the calendar dates. And I guess, they are tentative, but this is based on our bylaws and the school calendar. We really didn't have to adjust our dates. They did not fall on vacations or school closings. So you have both there. I'm going to pause for a second. We have any questions before we continue? All right, I don't see any questions. Randy, just let me know. Here is our CPAC committees meetings. Every committee has a chair or co-chairs for the committees. Our committees will resume. Everyone is resuming back in October. So the Capacity Building Support Committee is quarterly, first Tuesdays of the month at 11:30. The first meeting is October 1st. Communications, quarterly, first Tuesdays of the month, that is at 10 a.m. First meeting, October 1st. High School Committee is the first Monday of the month at 10:30 a.m. First meeting is October 7th. Legislative Committee, the first meeting, I don't know if that says May. I will get the October's date for the Legislative Committee for October. The multi-language learners is quarterly. First meeting is October 7th at 11:40. Special education, here is the dates for our school year. Starting in October is October 6th at 6 p.m. Then the next one will be November 7th at 10 a.m. Then December at 6 p.m. So alternating the time between 10 and 6 every other month. And the here is listed on the screen and there's no one on the phone. Please take a note. These are your tentative dates for the Special Education Committee for all the way up from October to June. The Title I is quarterly as well. It's the first Tuesday of the month at 11. The first meeting is October 1st. The Wellness Committee is the second Wednesdays of the month at 10:30. Their first meeting will be October 9th. Alumni Committee's quarterly meetings, the first one is October 7th at 12:15 p.m. When you at the questionnaires. We will start the questionnaire form in September. The second half also gives you an opportunity for members to sign up for any committees that you would like to be part of. Only those who are in the committee will get the link to attend. Also for the public, it's on the website, the link to sign up for these committees. Again, only those who are actually signed up and agree to the committee meetings norms will be given the link. One Green Apple want us to remind everyone that they are still looking for test sites in the district. So reach out to Joseph M. Frattoni. He's the president. The website is www.onegreenapple.com. Phone number, the cell is 610-909-5708. Main phone number is 610-768-2890. So reminder, for those who want to have their district be tests for their application, One Green App Family Engagement application. Here is the information. Hold on. That's extra. So this one is supposed to be, which is blank. I had sent out the email. It's on the website. American Debate is giving out 50 scholarships for the summer. I will bring that back up. But before we go to face, we have switching of agenda. We're going to have now with us the Deputy Chancellor, Emma Vadehra, to talk about presentation on foundation aid. The main source of state funding for public schools come from what is called foundation aid. So please give our attention to DC Vadehra. You have the floor now, Emma.
Hey, Shirley, thank you very much. Just give me 1 second to try and screen share everybody. Hold on. Okay. Okay. Have I screen shared, Shirley?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Great. Hardest part is over. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us this morning, Shirley, and really appreciate the opportunity to take a little bit of you all's time on this item. I will be fairly quick and want to try and make sure there's some time for questions. As Shirley said, foundation aid is the biggest source of funding New York City Public Schools gets from New York State. And for the first time in basically 2 decades, the state is reviewing the formula and how it works. So it is a both key opportunity for us and a key moment of risk, unfortunately, for us as we look towards the changes they might make. So we have been doing a lot of work ourselves and with some advocates and with the unions to think about what recommendations we could make to the state as they consider this funding stream for not just us, but for all school districts. Wanted to run through some of where we are and what we're thinking about with you. Happy to take questions, feedback, and happy to have follow-up conversations. This is just such a big deal. We wanted to make sure it was on folks' radar. And I know it is on some of your radar already because I have spoken with you about you in other contexts. Foundation aid is our largest funding stream from the state. It's about $10 billion that New York City public schools will receive this year, which is about 25% of our overall budget. That's not all the funding we get from the state, but it's by far the largest single funding stream we get from the state to support our schools and communities. It is a weighted student funding formula, just like fair student funding for folks who have spent time on fair student funding. So basically at core, it looks at number of students districts have and the needs of those students. However, the way it looks at need is way less nuanced and comprehensive than the way our formula looks at student need, which is one of the things we hope the state will take a look at. As I said, the formula has not really been updated in roughly 2 decades, with the exception of one change that was enacted this past year that actually cut funding for every district in the state. So as you all know, it took a while for the state to fully fund foundation aid. We are very, very glad that they did. FY24 was the first time the state fully funded foundation aid. And then in FY25, the state actually reduced funding for all districts, not by what amounted to $120 million for New York City public schools, by changing how inflation was calculated in the formula. And so the one change we've seen has not been helpful to us or for other districts around the state. And then the last thing to know is that the formula is based on a successful school district model. So way back when it was developed, it looked at what does it take to be a successful school district, successful school, and then built the formula around that. That model also hasn't been updated in 2 decades. So there's a lot here that's out of date that we hope they take a look at. We use foundation aid for all kinds of things for our schools and communities. So we can talk about that more, but we use it for school budgets. The increases in foundation aid were some of how we finally got to fully fund fair student funding in our schools. So it's a critical resource for schools. It supports mental health supports, including guidance counselors and social workers, special education programming, including D75 and some of pre-K special education, some of our class size reduction efforts, and then some of the stimulus programs that we are continuing are now funded with foundation aid as well. Community schools, career pathways, students and temporary housing coordinators. It's not the full funding stream for these things, but it's a key component of the funding stream for all of these things, which is why it's so important to us. It's fairly flexible funding. Big picture, this is New York City Public Schools budget in terms of where the money comes from, which we just think is important as we make the case to the state in the time ahead of us. Overall, over the past 20 years, the state funding for New York City Public Schools has dropped as a proportion of our overall budget. So state funding has increased, which we are very grateful for, and I'll show what that looks like in a second. But our costs, our additional programming, and city funding have all increased faster. So while in the early 2000s, the state and the city, as you can see, both gave about 45% of our budget, with the rest coming from the federal government. Now that's more like 57% from the city, 37% from the state as we look towards the coming school year. This is the same information just in terms of dollars instead of percentages. So you can see the orange line, which is state funding, has absolutely increased. And Shaquille, I think you're off mute. Thank you. State funding has absolutely increased as the state fully funded foundation aid, as they were required to under the Campaign for Fiscal Equity lawsuit, but city funding has also increased and increased faster. So there's now roughly an $8 billion difference. So that's where we are now as we look towards the state reconsidering the formula. We're really glad they're reconsidering the formula. It's been a long time since they have. We're also concerned that the one change that's been made actually reduced funding in terms of instead of increased funding for districts. And so one of the things we're looking to do is make sure New York City Public Schools is putting out some affirmative recommendations for what the state could do. I'm sorry, Veronica, do you mind muting yourself? And hi, good morning. Thank you. Put out some affirmative recommendations for what the state could do that actually would align with our schools and community needs. So these are the things we are working on now. We're continuing to work on them. The Chancellor has testified about these and we'll be submitting them formally at the end of the summer, but we're continuing to take more ideas. One is to update the successful school district model on which the formula is based to better reflect what we actually expect our schools to do today. We expect our schools to do more around mental health services. We have raised the bar in terms of rigor and curriculum. We have expanded pre-K and 3K here in New York City, although that's of course not true everywhere. We have a more comprehensive view of education. Their model that this is based on doesn't look at that. We're recommending that the state take into account additional funding for students in temporary housing and students in the foster system. I mentioned earlier, the state formula looks at need in some ways. Our formula also looks at need in some ways and in more ways and more comprehensively. As many of you know, we updated our formula to include a weight for students in temporary housing, thanks to the recommendations of the Fair Student Funding Working Group. We're basically saying the state should do a version of the same. We appreciate you look at poverty, but we have other students who have other additional needs for us to fully serve. You should be taking that into account. And this, of course, will include many of our newest New Yorkers who we are welcoming and who are often qualifying as students in temporary housing, who we want to provide those additional services to. We're asking that the state expand aid for special education and multilingual learners. So basically a version of the same. There are weights included in foundation aid for these, but they're not differentiated based on student need the way ours are in New York City. And frankly, we think they're not high enough to fully allow us to serve our students and expand some of our specialized programming. We're asking the state to review this regional cost index. That's basically the state in the formula looks at the costs of things across the state. Costs more to do stuff in New York City, costs more to do everything. And the way they look at that adjustment is based on 2006 data. And basically we think the costs here in New York City are way higher now comparatively than they were then. And then we're asking the state to provide some aid related to the new class size caps, which only relate to New York City public schools. We are in compliance. We expect to continue to be in compliance next year. There will be additional costs that we have found, that the comptroller has found, that the IBO have found, all in the $1.4 to $1.9 billion range, and asking the state to contribute some funding for that via foundation aid or in another way. And then the last slide, Shirley, I promise, I'm sorry. The last thing is there's a few things that we know the state is looking at that we have some concerns about because they would potentially result in reduced funding. So we're just keeping our eye on these. One is, as I mentioned, last year, the state changed how they calculate inflation in a way that just reduced funding in the formula. We face real inflationary costs every year, and we are keeping an eye on whether they look to continue that. The last thing is the poverty metrics in foundation aid are really out of date. They are based on 2000 data. That obviously doesn't make a ton of sense given that it's 2024, but depending how the state updates those metrics, that could have a negative impact on New York City compared to the rest of the state. So we're keeping a close look on what the best ways are for them to consider measuring and taking poverty into account in their formula, which they do, and we think they should continue to do. So with that, Shirley, I'm going to stop. I'm happy to take questions. I will say big picture. We're doing this now because the state at the end of the legislative session asked the Rockefeller Institute, which is an external institute, to do a review of foundation aid and provide recommendations this fall in order to inform the next state funding cycle. So Rockefeller is doing that work right now. They're having 5 hearings. There was one in New York City, which some of you may have been at. The Chancellor testified. They're finishing those up and putting their recommendations together for this fall. And then the legislature will be the official decider as usual, the governor and the legislature in the spring. So that's where we are.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. You still had some time, especially our agenda's changing a little bit. Anyone has any questions regarding foundation aid for DC Chancellor, for Deputy Chancellor Vadehra? Okie dokie. First one up is Adriana.
First, I'd like to say congratulations, Deputy Chancellor of Finance and Operations. That's new info to me, so congratulations. And thank you for this presentation. I don't really have a question, but Emma, how can parents who missed the New York City Rockefeller presentation still voice their concerns, voice their opinions on what should change about the model, and they can't drive out, sorry, they can't drive out to one of the other locations that is going to be hosting within the next few weeks across the state? But if they can't make that drive, how else can they participate? And thank you.
I appreciate that you got in front of me suggesting a group road trip to Albany, which I made on another call I think you were on, and I believe you might get roped into that other group road trip. So yes, sorry. Yeah, that's a really good question. So there are a set of 5 hearings. One was in New York City. It was, quite honestly, not terribly well advertised, and it was in the dead of summer. The official There is also a written submission process, which I actually think is really important. I can't remember the exact deadline for that. Maybe Ben or Elijah can. It's in September, and parents have the opportunity, and everybody has the opportunity to send in their thoughts, their recommendations, their concerns to Rockefeller as a part of this particular process. We can make sure you all have that information. Surely we can drop that in the chat so people have the website and the email address. I will just say, I don't think these need to be really deep, complicated things. They need to know parents in New York City are keeping an eye on this. We understand this is happening. We understand this is critical. We understand their formula does not take into account all the needs of our students, including the students we've been welcoming over the past couple of years. And we are watching what they will be doing over the rest of this cycle. So we're happy. We'll share the information and the date. I saw Ben come on, so maybe he can share that now. But that is the most obvious immediate opportunity that we have in front of us. The second thing I would just say is, this is Rockefeller. This will all turn over, of course, to the governor and the legislature as we actually get into the cycle. So I know some of you have great relationships with some of your elected officials. We just want to make sure they're aware of what the stakes are for New York City. You know, it feels sometimes like people think we're so big, this is just a small piece of it, but this is a really critical part of our funding going forward. Already and going forward. And we just want folks to know we are paying attention to what they'll do. And we're happy, by the way, to supply data or information on how we came up with these recommendations. A lot of advocates are working on others as well, with a lot of familiarity, frankly, given the needs of the city, but happy to share more. Okay, go ahead, Ben.
Yes, and written comments to the state are due on September 6th. I just shared the link in the chat for the foundation aid study in general. And at the bottom, you'll find a written comment submission form if you guys would like to make a submission.
Thanks, Ben.
Any other questions or comments? For regarding foundation aid? I know it's still summer, but no questions.
I feel like this was part of their strategy for this to all happen in the summer. This is all the same. Sorry, Shirley, go ahead.
No problem. All right, Adriana, I'll give you the floor.
Hello, just because I know it'll come up soon and they're often confused for each other. Can you explain whether or not pegs that may or may not transpire later in the year will affect foundation aid, or will they affect another part of the budget or a separate part of the budget? Thank you.
Yes. So far, the only pegs we have for this year are the ones that were put in place last year and not retracted, just so we're clear. And then, of course, we did get all the stimulus money that we got, which was good news too. Basically the way that works is pegs apply to city funding specifically. And so when we get pegs, it's the city's way of asking agencies to reduce city funding, not state funding. So we will still receive the foundation aid if that happens. So that's the relationship between the two. It's all part of the same budget, and of course the same budget where most of the money is going to our schools to support the same things, but that's the direct relationship. And can I actually use that to just flag one other thing, Shirley, I meant to say, Adriana, if that's work, which is just something else we are just keeping an eye on here, which I think is important, is one of the other changes the state considered this year was eliminating a hold harmless for school districts that have lost students. That ended up being put back. Basically, there was so much vocal advocacy from those communities that have been receiving a state hold harmless. So basically continuing to receive funding, even though their enrollment is down, that was put back in. We expect the state will continue to look at that. That is critical for those districts, and we will let that conversation continue. The one thing I want us all to keep an eye on is that that's not the core of the priorities for New York City public schools. Our enrollment has largely stabilized. And so the funding we get based on enrollment has largely stabilized. What we need to do is make sure they're taking into account the additional services of some of our students with additional needs and taking into account the cost of doing things in New York City. But the sort of hold harmless piece of this is less relevant for us in case that comes up in other conversations you all are having.
Okay, that's great. last call. There's no questions in the YouTube, Charlene? But we know how to find you, Emma. If there's any more questions, we will email them to you or go through Face. And everybody, as you can see in the chat, would like to congratulate you again for your promotion as Deputy Chancellor of Division of Operations and Finance. It's great to see. We know we always see you as the money person. Anyway, so congratulations on that again. Last call before I move on to the next agenda item, foundation aid. That's the bulk of the funding for our New York City Public Schools. No other questions. Well, my plea is, again, if you can't personally, as Adriana has stated, go to out on the island or upstate, because I think those are the next two upcoming, for about hearings on financial aid. Could you please do a written report, because they do read it. So, because this will just help get additional funding and appropriate funding for our schools. And, also, since we have expanded our grades here in New York City Public Schools, please, all of you, ask them to add 3K, make the funding for 3K through 12th grade, right? Because right now it's K to 12. And since we do have 3K and pre-K, they also need to be funded. This is New York City Public School structure now. We added 2 more grades. So it'll be helpful that everyone who's listening make that petition to give funding to provide for 3K and 4K grades as well. And we always could use more money. All right, so thank you, DC Vadehra, Emma, for coming on and taking time to explain financial aid to us. So I'm going to share my screen again.
Thank you all.
I'm going to share my screen again. I skimmed through Augustine is new school year beginnings, and we'll talk more about that in detail. We did get 1 more person, but we need 2 more. We'll see. We'll come back to the minutes, but I wanted to share, because I updated the slides. Bear with me. Who's had that? So here is the flyer. If some of you have not seen this, there's a QR code there. High school summer camp, 50 Leaders of Tomorrow, full scholarship to attend our virtual summer camp, which starts August 26th to the 30th. Choose either 9 or 12 or 1 to 4. Public forum, new experience. Deadline to apply is August 20. You can email them at info@americandebateleague.org, or you can scan the QR code that you see on the screen. And you can also go to CPAC website. It is on there. As I said earlier, and we do have Shaquille here from DIIT, we're going to postpone this, and I'm going to ask Shaquille, please, to make sure that not only for September that we talk about the parent email accounts, but also about cyber security. I think it's very important. And the New York City policy on this. I think this is very important for everyone to have an understanding why the Division of Instructional and Information Technology is working on strengthening cybersecurity, and it involves these parent emails. So that will, give a better understanding and a little bit, I guess, sympathy of why this undertaking is happening. We are in agreement. I'm going to stop sharing. I can't see y'all. Is he?
Yes,
Emma, is he
Cheryl,
still?
I'm
Okay.
in agreement. Thank you very much. We will include that in our presentation next week.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have 13 minutes. So Cristina, Dr. Melendez, you are scheduled to go after the Chancellor. You're okay to stay on that schedule? Are you okay with that? Sure. Okay, great. So I want to give an opportunity to the board and the new members at this time, new members, old members, returning members, to give comments, talk about their district, who they represent, or, this is your opportunity. If you have any questions regarding anything that we spoke about so far. And I know that I going through the emails, because usually I don't go through, can't share and look through emails, but as a reminder for those who are on YouTube, who should be on the platform, but they did not have their elections, or the election, they did have elections, the election certification was not set in. We are only going by what FACE received, because you must send in those certifications, and only those who had their elections are on the Zoom platform, right? And we talked about this strenuously in the month of April, May, June, to get these elections done. And we understand sometimes quorum's not met, but also understand that those who are on this platform is because they have submitted their election certification form and or part of the board. So Dr. Melendez is in agreement with me. Let's tell us what's happening during the summer. And I see, Rosa, you put on your camera. So I guess you're going to be first to tell me the wonderful things that's coming out of Manhattan high schools.
Good morning, everyone. Well, a lot of things are happening in Manhattan High School, and everything is wonderful. So, I know, right? So right now, what we are meeting as an executive board, we actually met with Manhattan High School superintendents. We spoke a bit about class size and how we're going to support all our high schools. And we have next month, we have our first meeting in September 17, and we sent out a survey to all the PAPTA presidents because we want to be more available. We want to do our meetings on the time and date of their availability. So we will go and, obviously review our bylaws, then vote on the new bylaws and all the procedures that we have to follow. And we're going to go by what the majority says. If it's on a Monday, on a Tuesday, on a Wednesday, we'll change it to whatever that date is, because we want more participation from our parent leaders. So that's why we're here to serve.
Awesome. I love that. And you just gave beginnings. First thing in September. Let's review our bylaws, right? They're living documents. We should review them annually to see if it works for our membership. Absolutely. I love that. Anybody else who would like to, or they're looking forward to September when schools resume again? The school year started since July 1st, but the core of the work started. We will start in September. Anybody else who would love to share? I see a hands raised. Hold on. Who's that? All right. I was going to call you next too, Veronica. Thank you.
Good morning. And sorry for being late. I had a doctor's appointment, so I apologize. I know I got in late, so I didn't know much, but I was just wondering to know, do we have any representation for high school in Brooklyn?
Yes, we do have Brooklyn High Schools in Brooklyn, who is our co-chair, my co-chair, our co-chair.
Awesome.
So she is on the platform. She turned on her camera so you could see her pretty face. And hopefully she'll be the next one to speak after you of what they're looking for the next school year.
Thank you so much.
Anything else you want to share? Any gems you would like to drop down? Because it's not only Anthony's setup.
Yeah, I already meet we met over the summer. We have our dates ready for our upcoming year and some ideas that was shared around, but we want to put that to the general body to see if those ideas that we came up with, it would be something that they interested. But so far, we already put all our dates together and have ideas of things to see how we can get more parent involvement, not only at the present council level, but individual schools. And our plans is to try to go to different meetings to get more, to see if we can bring out more parents. Thank you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yes, this is what President's Councils and PAPTA should be doing at this time. Love it. All right, Randy, I'm going to throw the ball to you.
Okay, so very pleased to share that Brooklyn High School President's Council held its elections in June. Tamara Stern was elected as the new president. I am the treasurer. I'm also the CPAC representative for this term. We had a meeting with all the FLCs to discuss support and expectations, and it was a great meeting and everyone was on board. And we had a meeting in July with the high school presidents, and we had 20 people and 20 members in attendance, which was great to see. And we look forward to supporting them. Our next meeting is going to be, I believe, August 22nd at 6 p.m. It's virtual. So Veronica, I'll make sure that you get the link. And
thank you.
We look forward to being very productive this year.
Awesome. See, that's what we're going. Developing partnerships before the school year started. Partnership with President's Council. Part of our partnership is not only with this, well, it is the superintendent's office, is the family leadership coordinator and family support coordinator. They should be one of your strongest partners in developing messages to our membership. Jazzy, you're unmuted, and I apologize because I could have swear I silenced my phone. Jazzy, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to say something? No?
Hey, hi Shirley.
Hello, Chancellor Banks. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How about you?
I'm doing good. We're doing good. Everybody's smiling. So we got to give you an A+ for coming early. Before we continue, would you like to start now? But I have to share my slides so I can introduce you properly. I'm glad to see. I'm glad you see you smiling. It is the summer. You seem a little bit relaxed. So for our first meeting, we do have our New York City Public School Chancellor, David C. Banks, with us. And he is here, seem very relaxed and chilling. I can't tell. Oh, you're still in the car, but you're more down. You're down. You don't have a suit and tie, so you seem relaxed as you should be for the summer. So at this point, since you're here and we're going with the flow, we're going to give you the floor.
Well, I certainly appreciate that, Shirley, and everybody that's here. This is a good time of the year as we're getting closer to winding down, even on our summer rising programming, and just making some adjustments within our system. I'm actually getting ready to go into a funeral service for a gentleman named Michael Hardy, who was the legal counsel and really the right hand for Reverend Al Sharpton. So the whole Harlem community is out here at First Corinthians Baptist Church, and I want to go pay my respects. I've known him for many, many years, and I'm going to be stepping into that service, which has already begun just as soon as I am done here. But, we've made a lot of changes this summer, and one of the ones that I'm most excited about is, well, first of all, I'm not sure if Simone Hawkins is on, our new
she just came on.
She just came on.
Good morning.
Deputy Chancellor for Early Childhood. Simone, you want to say a word?
Sure. Good morning, Chancellor. How are you today? Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here and share some space with you all. As the Chancellor mentioned, I'm the new DC for Early Childhood Education here at New York City Public Schools. I hear this is often a good conversation, so I'm just excited to learn and hear from all of you. As many of you may know, I'm a Brooklyn native. I always like to rep that and say that first and foremost, that I'm from this city. I like to follow that by saying I'm a parent of a fantastic middle school daughter, and I am a civil servant. So I'm here to partner with you and on behalf of children and families. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you, Simone. Thank you for being just a wonderful addition to our team in this leadership role. For those who don't know, Simone had been with us before as well, and she's returned back. She brings a wealth of experience, and with Dr. Ahmed leaving to take a national post, we are thrilled that we've got Simone here. We're in really good hands, and I'm hoping that you all will take advantage of getting to know her. She's amazing. And secondly, I wanted to introduce another deputy chancellor who also left for a period of time and came back, and I'm thrilled about that as well. And that is, my former chief of staff, Melissa Ramos. And people, if you don't know about her background, she's just all around amazing educator, former principal, superintendent, has a deep understanding of how this whole system actually works. And I want to just tell you, Shirley, as she reintroduces herself, that one of the big issues I know has come up on this call on many occasions is the question around the emails. And so we've got a little update for everybody here as well through Melissa. So Melissa, please, we're allowing you to reintroduce yourself.
Thank you, Chancellor. And I just want to
thank.
thank.
Checking my boss. You checking my boss?
I'm loving it, Chancellor, and I'm just going to say that this largely Brooklyn represented cabinet of the chancellors has been very welcoming of the Bronx girl. So just going to throw that in. But super excited to be here with some are new faces, but in many cases, old friends who have welcomed me back. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here. And most importantly in this role, because in my experience, I wasn't able to accomplish anything as a school or district leader without families. Families are our greatest partner in service of children. And so any work that we do to support our parents to be able to lead in these spaces is most important. So thank you for accepting to be here with you and to be in community with you. I'm very grateful. As the Chancellor mentioned, we are revisiting this idea around the emails. And I just want to say that the issues and the problems that you raised are very real ones, especially the one around the bank accounts. And so at this time, we are going to put a pause on moving forward until we can really figure out a solution that is going to enable you to do the work that you have signed up to do and that we're most grateful for. We don't want to move ahead in a way that is going to cause issues for you, but I do want to reiterate that this is a citywide directive, and it is of safety. And so I'm happy to continue the conversations with you offline so we can work towards a solution. But I want to be clear that we are going to put a pause on this for now so we can work towards a better solution. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that in the coming days, probably before Monday, we are going to invite you to join my team. Okay, we are going to invite Nope, that's fine. Thank you. We are going to, sometimes I get muted on purpose, so it's okay. I'm used to that. We are going to invite you for an in-person mixer with my team and me, so you can meet all the leads across the family and community engagement team. You can have time with us to ask questions, to get to know us. We are doing 2 events. One will be in person, but we also understand you are all incredibly hardworking and balance multiple hats, wear multiple hats. And so we are going to also offer a virtual component. We would much rather see you in person and break bread with you and have coffee. But if you're not available, there will be a virtual component as well. So we urge you to come join us and bring your questions. You will get this information in the very near future. So I want to thank our Chancellor always for championing all of us and for always making time to be with us and bring us together. I'm honored to restart my journey in the DOE with my friend Simone Hawkins, and we're ready for the work ahead. So great to see all of you.
Thank you so much for that, Melissa. And you know, this is an issue. I know Randy and others have already weighed in on the chat. They're very appreciative of hearing this, because this is something that has been out there for a while. And as soon as I gave this to Melissa, she took off with it, took it and ran with it, and is delivering. So thank you, Melissa, for making this happen. For the parents here at CPAC, they've been talking about this for a while, and I'm glad you were able to deliver on this. And anything we can do to continue to stay in touch. Melissa is going to be the key point person, you know, of course, certainly together working with Cristina and her entire team. But this entire body of work reports up to our newest Deputy Chancellor, Melissa Ramos. So thanks again for that. And I guess I could take a question or two. I really want to try to get into this service. The mayor just walked in, and I'm going to be joining my newest chief of staff and former deputy chancellor, who you all dealt with, Kenita Lloyd. And I want to just, first of all, take a moment just to acknowledge Kenita and her leadership and all the work that she did in building relationship with all of you and trying to continue to move this work forward. If we could just kind of give her a collective virtual round of applause, we certainly appreciate that. She works very hard. She cares deeply about this work. And so there's big shoes for you to fill, Melissa, and I'm sure you're going to fill them, or you're going to bring your own shoes and make it happen. So thank you. Shirley, with that, maybe I can take 1 or 2 questions, and then I'm going to have to get into the service.
Sure. Veronica, you're first. District
Thank you.
17.
It's not basically a question. I just want to take this opportunity to thank our chancellor and his entire team for supporting us. And we look forward for our new school year to collaborate and work more together. Thank you.
I thank you. Thank you so much for that. And I think, you know, all of the ideas, all of the ways to collaborate and work together. This is a new year, as always, marks a new opportunity for collaboration and partnership. And our whole senior team stands ready to be supportive. And Melissa will be the major point person as the deputy chancellor for all of you. So thank you so much for that comment.
Okay, while people...
Shirley, I just want to say something. Chancellor Banks, I know that like I've been beating this dead horse all year, and I am so glad that we don't have to keep discussing it. I really feel that like our voice has been heard. We advocated and we're speaking up, and your team has listened. And I really want to thank Deputy Chancellor Ramos for being here. And we were on, you know, call with her and Cristina and everyone involved to just make this more of a positive thing going forward, that we can communicate and we can be heard, and change can happen with parents using their voice. So thank you for that.
Absolutely. And I appreciate it. I will say this to you, and this happened because Melissa made it happen. And I want to thank her for leaning into this. And I'm saying to all of you, continue to stay in very close contact with her as we drive deeper partnership as we are moving forward. I want to thank Melissa, and I'm looking forward to her new leadership in this space, and I think it's going to be amazing. I'm really excited about the things that are coming for us for this school year. I've always said the best is yet to come. I don't just say that, I believe that. But you need the right people in the right places, and all of us working together collaboratively with the right spirit. And that's how we get things done. So I want to just say how much I appreciate all of you. I am going to jump now because I do want to get into this homegoing service for a dear friend of mine and a community leader for a long time. A lot of the city's leadership is in the church already, and I want to get in here and join them as well. But thank you. I think folks from our team are still on for a bit
Yes.
to take any other questions that folks may have. And again, Shirley, thank you for your leadership, your continued leadership, and your commitment, all of you, to the kids of New York City. Thank you.
Send out condolences as well, Chancellor Banks, but I see DC Ramos wanted to respond real quick.
I did, and Chancellor can leave.
Yes, thank you, Melissa. Thanks,
no
everybody.
Randy, so thank you so much for the kudos and your support. And my understanding is that this conversation has been happening for a very long time. You and Shirley have really been leading this, and so I want to thank you all for that as well. What I will say is I don't forget our partners in DIIT. They have been charged with a very, very difficult task. Change is hard. And when we've been doing things a certain way for a really long time, it takes a lot of out of the box thinking and figuring out how to meet mandates and expectations for the sake of safety. And so I also want to thank Deputy Chancellor Emma Vadehra and her team at DIIT, because when I tell you that I am at the table, they are the ones who are translating things for me, because I just don't understand sometimes some of the technical language that they have. And Emma is that bridge between DIIT and us civilians who just speak very simple English. And so I want to make sure that we're also understanding that while this has been a tedious process, and we are really trying to be in compliance with this mandate for the sake of safety and not to make anyone's lives difficult, and we understand that right now as it is, it will keep you from doing the good work that you signed up to do. I also want to thank Deputy Chancellor Vadehra and her team for always taking on the incredibly difficult work that many of us don't know how to do. So thank you, Emma and DII.
Awesome, thank you. I don't see any more questions or hands, but I would like to say, and I'm going to send it via email, but I'm going to send out the invitation, and I'm pretty sure DC Ramos, you're already aware, but DC Ramos, DC Hawks, you'll be our main invited guest for September's meeting, so you can help talk and share your vision for your division going into the next school year. So I have verbally, but we will send a formal email inviting you, and also through our face liaison, Anthony Settle and Cristina, invitation for our September meetings. Come on, this is the start of the school year. Y'all don't have any questions or comments? I would like to ditto all the other comments that's been said. This is a new school year. Let's start it positively, collaboratively, with partnership, because again, we know the ultimate goal is our scholars, right? It's not us. And also, I always like to remember, besides leading by example, it is okay to disagree. We just got to do it amicably, right? And actually listen to each other, right? So this is going forward in all spaces, not just on CPAC. We go back to our president's councils, to our PAPTAs, and in any other forum. Let's understand it's okay to disagree. It's not a sin. Okay, it's not a fighting point, because we are going to disagree, because we are very individual, unique, and we have different perspectives. And that's what makes us perfect collectively, because we get to see all faces or aspects of a situation that needs to be resolved or improved or upscaled, right? Just keep that in mind. And thank you. I talked enough so Manhattan high schools can make their comment.
Yes, thank you so much. I just want to say congratulations to Melissa again. I've known her for a couple of years now. She support me, support parents in the Bronx, like really fast and really confidential, of course. So I'm so glad. Thank you so much that you're here to support us. Thank you. Congratulations.
Mil gracias, Rosa.
Oh.
Anyone else? I see you have his cabinets here. We have OPT, Glenn Risbrook, thank you for being here. We have OFNS, Chris Tarago is here. We do have our first Deputy Chancellor, Diane Weisberg here. We have Dr. Pate, or is she a doctor? Yes, she a Pate doctor too, here. As well, come on, we have the board here. You don't have any questions? How about let's take time? We do have some time. How about his cabinet team? Anybody would like to have any well wishes? We have Elaine Lindsay here. Dr. Hulla's here. Come on. We have Danielle Gunther's here. We got a bunch of chiefs. Anyone? No questions? How about you speak to us, but his cabinet team? I'm inviting you if you have any words going into the new school year.
Well, Chair Auburn, I would just say, appreciate your energy as always, and here on your comment about it's okay to disagree. Sometimes it's a good thing to disagree. That's how our ideas get better. That's how we sharpen our ideas, right? We test them with each other. But especially now, I think it's so important as we go into the school year. Our kids need to see us doing that. They need to see us as leaders modeling that we can have different points of view. The mayor is fond of saying we have 8.5 million New Yorkers with 20 million opinions on everything. So we expect to have some disagreements. But the question is, as you say so eloquently, Chair Auburn, how do you disagree? Do you do it in a way where you make it personal, where you look to attack the integrity of the other person, or do you do it in a way where with respect and even admiration for somebody respectfully testing your ideas? So this is one of the things that the Chancellor and I and the team are focused on for this year. You know, it's I don't need to tell anybody on this Zoom call, the political strife, the issues of conflict around the world have not gone away over the summer. If anything, they're worse in many places, and so our kids are going to be challenged by this. And you know, one of the things, Chair Auburn, I would say that we would ask for all of your help on is, you know, finding opportunities to model civil, respectful debate and disagreement on the tough issues. You know, we can have civil and respectful disagreement on whether tariff policy is good policy or not, but nobody's losing sleep, at least I don't think so, about tariff policy. But people are losing a lot of sleep over what's going on in Gaza and Israel and issues of anti-Semitism here and Islamophobia and you know, and the civil war that's going on in Sudan that's affecting some of our families here. And on and on. Not to mention this political campaign with some of the ugliness that is happening around that. So you know, I wish I had you know, there's no 10-point plan on this, but I will be very focused on finding those opportunities in public meetings. Maybe we can engineer some discussion groups where kids can see this is what it looks like for people to disagree passionately on controversial issues, but still have a good, productive discussion and come out of it feeling stronger, feeling more together, rather than feeling like we are more at odds and in conflict. So just didn't mean to get too much on the soapbox, but I thought your point, Chair Auburn, was so important. And we're going to be challenged on that through the course of this school year in various ways. So look forward to your partnership and partnership with all of the parent leaders. And I know Melissa, who, I'm the #1 member of the Melissa Ramos fan club. And I know she's going to be a great leader for us in her position and working with all of you guys. And I stand ready to do so as well.
Awesome. I actually got sent a question, but I love the idea of an icebreaker. But I'm going to ask this question, and then if there's still time, we'll go into the icebreaker. I got a suggestion, but I have an icebreaker in mind. So if we do go that, people keep this in mind. If you can go in a certain time in history, what time period would you go back to? That will be the icebreaker. But the question is, and this is about this conversation has been happening towards the end of the school year, throughout the summer. Even Governor Hochul mentioned it again. What is New York City Public Schools' plan to implement the cell phone ban this year? Are you still planning to do that in February?
So, Chair, great question. This is an ongoing conversation, and obviously we're gonna have something to say about it before the start of the school year. But ongoing conversation, not just here among New York City Public Schools, and the Chancellor is talking about this with so many different stakeholders, students, parents, experts, etc. But it's also a conversation with the mayor and his team, and talking through the thing that we're convinced, and I think there's a lot of agreement that use of cell phones in schools is disruptive. We always want to emphasize, and you guys are rightly always pushing us to emphasize, okay, there's the policy, then there's the implementation of the policy. And so we want to make sure that whatever policy we come out with, we have really thought through what are the downsides, what are the pitfalls, what are the individual issues that may come up. So that's what we're engaged in, Shirley, right now is that discussion. But obviously we need to come out, and we will come out and talk about what the policy is going to be before we head into the new school year. And I don't know if any of the Melissa or anybody else in the cabinet wants to jump in on that.
No, Dan, I echo everything you said, but I think this is a place where your voices are so important. And I'm actually really proud that we are not just jumping into something without really considering implementation. I think that's what makes this administration unique. Not without flaw, of course, but we know that when things are implemented very quickly and without the input of families and school leaders and teachers and children themselves, right? We know how attached they are to these devices and how important they are. So engagement is everything around this. So very much an ongoing conversation. And that said, if there are any concerns specific to you or your school or ideas that you have, then always feel free to talk to Cristina and me, because we are always willing to listen. And 9 times out of 10, we're together too. So you can catch both of us together.
Thank you for that, and we appreciate that. And we know the conversations are being held even all the way at the school levels. Some schools have already had those discussions as well. Continue to have those conversations and share those the input suggestions. And of course, not all schools are the same. I'm pretty sure the direction is to have choices of implementation, what is best for each individual schools, because what would work for a small school may not work for a large school, etc. But I would like to say, can we not call it? I mean, I didn't ask the questions, but I already said, have raised a hand, like, do not call it a cell phone ban, because we literally took it out of the regs, right? Because we're not banning cell phones really in the building. We are banning the use during instructional hours. So I just wanted to make sure that is very clear, because once you hear cell phone ban, that means, oh, we can't have cell phones in the building. I can't let my child bring their cell phones into the school. And that is not the case, right? So it's not a ban from having cell phones in the building. That's all I would like to add to that, I know I have mentioned it in other spaces. Let's get rid of the Sanford band, and I probably leave it up to you because I can't come up with a jazzy name yet. I'm thinking about it, but let's come up with another phrase for that engagement, right? Erica, I saw
Language
your
is so
hand.
important, Shirley. Thank you for that. That's actually really good feedback, and we want to be intentional with language too. So thank you. Thank you. That's great feedback.
Awesome, thank you. Erica, your hands were up and you brought it back down. You read my mind?
Yeah, I actually had a quick question, an OPT question. We have several parents I know in District 8 that filed tickets for reimbursements for buses throughout the year and still haven't received anything at all. And I know they all have that impending fear of, are we going to wait 2 weeks, or is this going to be the 1 year that day one everything is ready? Is there any guidance on what to bring back to those parents who have those concerns?
Well, thank you for the question. Actually, we've been having recent meetings on exactly how we're going to clear up the ones that we're waiting to send out. You should be hearing something on that pretty soon. As soon as we get the finances for this fiscal year that just started, we should be able to get those payments out. But if there's anybody specifically that you want to let me know about, I'll put my email in the chat, and you can get that to me, and I can look at that specifically. But you should be hearing some things on those payments pretty soon.
Great, thank you.
I'll also just say on that, Erica. Oh, go ahead, Shirley.
No, go ahead. You want to add to that comment? So go ahead. Then I have other questions that's popping up to me. So go ahead.
Okay, great. I was just going to say, Erica, I really appreciate that. Please do send Glenn the specifics. I just want to note, with appreciation for Glenn and team and finance team, we have been working through a reimbursement backlog that was from the beginning of the pandemic. So we have been doing a lot of catching up. We are catching up. We have now cleared 2 years in the past 6 months. That's not okay because we shouldn't have been that far behind. But I just want to say we put in place some new processes. We're also clearing a multi-year backlog, and we are hopeful we'll be on top of all the things shortly, as Glenn said, in terms of this past fiscal year. And that was because you all raised this to us, frankly, last summer, in terms of this group raised specific families who are still waiting for COVID era reimbursements. And we dug in and we found them when we started working through them. So just want to say, appreciate the feedback. No, it's not fast enough yet, but please know we're taking it really seriously and are working through the multi-year backlog now.
Thank you for that.
Awesome. Thank you. I got a question, and this is directed for Office of Food and Nutrition Services, Chris. Somebody wants clarification about the current New York Post story.
Sure, Shirley. Thank you for that question. As much as I'd like to say the New York Post got the facts right, I have to actually disagree. The facts are wrong. We received a donation from the USDA for a lot of apples that was not at any cost to us. We have 0 reports of what you saw in the Post being reported to my office. In fact, we've had a variety of apples that came through this bonus donation, which were really something we haven't seen in a while. For example, Granny Smith apples are not something our children receive. We have other fruit in the schools. We have bananas, tangerines, and watermelon. I think this more had to do with a distribution situation, which we're going to get to the bottom of that eventually. But this is not something, we are not wasting fruit. We are making sure that all of the fruit that is in our school is ready to be served. None of those pictures were taken from schools. None of those pictures of those apples were taken from any of our buildings whatsoever. And I want to say, again, we pride ourselves on serving the best, well-maintained food. So the Post did report what they did. I cannot justify what they did. I can tell you that I guarantee that the food we serve to children will always be the freshest quality.
I would just like to follow up on that with a question. Has any of the school meal sites, including the public library, received any complaints in regards to food being served, either the food truck, the libraries, at our schools? Any complaints at all regarding? Go ahead.
No, Shirley, actually, this summer we've already surpassed 5 million meals. We're on track to meet the 7 million meals that we served last year. Our participation at Summer Rising has been amazing. We have obviously our food trucks on the street. We're at pools, parks, libraries. We're also in several NYCHA sites. We've been collaborating across city agencies to make sure we're in the right places. I've been speaking to the Bronx Borough President as well as the other borough president to strategically place the trucks. It has been something that we're really proud of this year. And I think everyone and all kids in New York City should take advantage of the free summer meals program.
Awesome. I don't think we have time for, but keep that in mind the next time for an icebreaker. That's what the question is. So have that answer prepared. This is including members and cabinet team. Let's also have that in mind. We're going to do an icebreaker, but I would like to say, well, maybe we'll get Adriana to do one. We still got like 3 minutes, but I would love to say that we're in a social media world, right? We're using technology more and more. And I have to say that I think New York City Public Schools, besides parent leadership, but I think New York City Public Schools is doing a better job of letting us know, the city as well, if you follow certain agencies, that they are letting us know, because I saw school meals so many times, and the cooling centers, which is appropriate for the summer. We had multiple heat waves. So I think need to continue that social media push, but also the traditional way as well. All right, because not everybody is on the social media and looking at Twitter or Instagram, etc. But I have to applaud the usage of those, because I think they have been very effective. Because I know parent leaders also do use those as well. And I just want to say thank you about that, because school meals all day, every time I go jump on the school or that platform, what New York City doing as a whole is very good. So New York City Public Schools is taking advantage of that form of communications, which a lot of our parent leaders are on. So thank you so much for that. I know I put Adriana on the spot, but I'm going to share. How about that? I'll put myself on the spot. So if I wanted to pick a time in history, overall is not the best for women, but I love the Victorian age. I love the books that came out of it. I love the author. I love the clothing. That is one of the time periods I would love to visit, is the Victorian age. And those are I love the Bronte sisters and Jane Austen and those novels that came from fabulous, awesome women writers at that period in their dress. Even though we didn't have our full rights, they were very instrumental of representing our gender, right? At that age, elegance and intelligence. That's why that would be one of the time periods I would love to go back to, is the Victorian age. All right. It's 11:30. FACE is up next. We have Dr. Cristina Melendez, who's the Executive Director of FACE, to give us updates. And thank you, Cabinet, for staying and engaging us. And we're looking for continued successful partnership going further into the school year. Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Have a good rest of the summer, everybody.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
You have the floor, Dr. Melendez.
Good morning, CPAC. I'm always so excited to be here. I always look forward to this platform and being in community and conversation with all of you. And it's nice to be back. We had a month off, sort of, and I missed you. So I'm glad you're back. It's nice to hear that you're all working really hard like we are to prepare for the upcoming school year. I just want to always thank you for all of the work that you do to ensure that all of the families and the kids in our schools are being heard and supported and cared for. So thank you always for that. And thank you for the work that you put in when everyone's asleep or vacationing or resting to make sure that happens. So I wanted to say a couple of things too. I wanted to say thank you to many of the folks here who are have also been in our trainings for the New York City Reads Ambassadors. They have been very active this summer outside of just preparing for some of the work that they're doing in their respective school communities, but they have been very active with us, just participating in all kinds of things, whether it's a presentation or a pop-up, reading to kids, giving feedback to some of the tools that the Literacy Collaborative is putting together for family engagement and PCs in particular. So we're just really, really grateful for their active and continuous support and participation around some of these things. And so I want to thank all of them, and there are many of them that are right here on this platform doing the good work. So thank you for showing up and showing out all the time. I also want to share that we are doing these pop-ups. Earlier on in the chat, I shared some of the hub locations. We have 21 hub locations, and I know it's not inclusive of every district in the city. A hub clearly is just a place that a business, an establishment that wants to be in partnership with us and is willing to host a small space with a number of books that we're happy to not only provide, but replenish on occasion. The idea is not to give away books, but to keep the books in the establishment so that then parents, families, as they're waiting, as they're visiting the establishment, children can engage in reading. So we have restaurants and barbershops and places where waiting is a big thing. And we are hopeful that kids can pick up a book and sort of engage in literacy or just read pictures. And it's also an opportunity for us to host pop-ups around those places. So if there are other places in your communities that you are thinking makes sense for a little bookcase or a box of books for families, and you know the establishment and you're interested in us exploring maybe an opportunity. I know I've had some conversations with some of you already about some spaces. Please identify them, let us know. We would be more than happy to figure that out with you and support that place to become a hub. So just putting that out there. We also have we have we're planning our town halls, and they are going on smoothly. We start the Chancellor Town Halls on September 9th with CCSE, followed by CCHS and so on. So we're excited that that is starting and that we are planning to be with the Chancellor and his team in our local communities for this cycle. Jesse?
Hi, Cristina. I know that
I know
also
I
wanted to
missed
mention. No, just one other thing. Our citywide summer connections for our parent coordinators. So we continue to support our parent coordinators throughout the summer. They work through 12 months out of the year. Important colleagues, in this work that we do. So we've had our citywide summer connection series. Recent one was on family communication strategies. We had about 300 participants participate there. And we are also continuing to do work, and we wanted to thank those who are part of the Parent Coordinator Advisory Council. Continue to meet with our Parent Coordinator Advisory Council and having initial conversation with them about the upcoming year, receiving their feedback on a variety of different topics, one being the New York City Schools account, as well as talking about the work that we're doing on our FACE rubric. But I believe that is everything, Cristina.
So I think that's it from us. Unless we have questions, happy to field them. I
Yes,
put
do
the
anyone has
locations
any
in the chat.
question? I don't see any hands up. Oh, there we go, Erica.
Hi, good morning. I did have a question. I know in engaging with the New York City Parent Ambassador work, we're running into a lot of parents that are saying, hey, I didn't hear about it, or I missed it. What's next? Is there a what's next? And I know that's a big funding conversation and everything else, but what would be the best way to bring that information to the parents and still keep them engaged with wanting to connect with parent ambassadors?
Yeah, I think for us, you're not alone here. We are definitely hearing you guys are doing the great work. And so every time someone sees you out there, they're like, we want to be part of that too. So first, thank you for doing that. But second, yes, you're right. Funding is a part of this conversation. We also have the recordings from the past sessions that we held. And so we're really thinking through, how can we use them to support through our already current ambassadors, maybe building the knowledge base across more parents and families that are interested in being part of that work and understanding what it means. The other piece to that is thinking about what are the opportunities at your very local districts to continue to expand and support that work with the ambassadors and also folks like the FLC and the superintendents and the deputy soups, right? Like, how do we get all of the other folks involved in supporting you all in having access to not just the knowledge, but also space in your schools to continue to do this work. So we're definitely in those conversations and excited to be speaking about those, both from how do we do it again and get the funding, but also how do we leverage what we've already done and continue to build, because you are ambassadors, but you're also the greatest messengers of this. And the goal of this program was always to have each one of you teach one of you. And so that is the setup. And we are hoping to at the very least, make sure that happens and supporting you in that way.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any other questions or comments for FACE? Nope. All right, maybe they are usually here till the end. So we're going to continue and move on. I didn't get to see your slide, but look, we have DC Melissa Ramos is there. This is the top three, including our FACE liaison, Anthony Settle. So now we're going into the next agenda item, CPAC settles not so secret gems. And today's topic is September's new school year beginnings. Anthony, you have the floor.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I was having a little difficulty being heard earlier, but thank God we got that straightened out. So, excuse me. So, preparing for September, preparing for your school year, to me is really a no-brainer. Is really it's a lot of common sense stuff, right? And much of my fire was already mentioned today, things that I was going to mention to you. I think the first thing that I would really want you to think about as presidents of presidents' councils and conveying to the presidents of your PAs and PTAs in your districts and in your boroughs is communication. Communication is going to be so key to any element of success, right? So if you can, in your role as presidents of both your PA PTAs and your president's councils, is to meet with either your district leadership or your school leadership. What do I mean by that? Obviously, if you are the president of a president's council, try to establish a meeting with your superintendent and your FLC. If at all, possibly together, do it together so that everybody is on the same page. As PA or PTA presidents, meet with your principal and your parent coordinator together, all at the same time. And I think that helps you to accomplish a number of things. A, it gives you an idea of what the needs are either in your school or in your districts. I'm pretty sure you all have a good finger on the pulse of what those needs are, but it's really good to talk to the people who are really facing those challenges every day as administrators. So have a conversation with your school principal. What are the needs of this school? With the superintendent, what are the needs of the superintendent? So many of you have heard me say this, right? So many of our PAs and PTAs focus 90% of their energy on students and families who are going to leave their school buildings at the end of the year. We all want to do something great for children who are graduating out of their schools, but 90% of your population is going to be there again for another year or two. So focusing on the needs of the school, not just the needs of the graduating class, does a number of things and sets you up for success, I think. So A, if you are looking to increase participation of your parent community at your school, if you're and we're in an elementary school and my child is in the 2nd grade and 90% of your meeting is focused on the 5th grade, I'll see you when my kid is in 5th grade, right? Why? Because you're not talking to me. You're not doing anything for my kid, right? So figure out a way to address the needs of the school that encompasses all the students, not just the students who are leaving this school at the end of the year and those families. So if you can, set up a meeting with your principals, with your superintendents to discuss the needs of the school. It's also real important, I think, at that meeting that I'm going to interject the regulation into this conversation now, right? Because you're required to have these regularly scheduled meetings with your school principals. You're required to have these regularly scheduled meetings with your superintendent. You're required to have these scheduled meetings with your CECs. So if you are doing that, you can better address the needs of the parents and the students in your schools and in your districts. You can also help to focus attention on those administrators and those CECs on the needs of parents. So it's a conversation that can really be fruitful in helping you to figure out what you're going to be doing for the year. That's going to lead me to my next point, which is your planning. So take this month and the first week or two of September to figure out, do we have the bank account in order? Because some people don't even know where the bank accounts are, right? So is the bank account in order? Do we have where are our documents? So where are the minutes from last year? Where are the notices from last year? Because again, a lot of the stuff you don't have to recreate over and over. Like, use what you already have in place, right? Just change the date. If the form on the flyer looks great, use the flyer again, right? Change the dates. You don't have to reinvent a wheel because the wheel has already been invented. All you need to do is figure out, how do I use this wheel to the best of my ability and to make us more successful? So figure out where your bank accounts are, where your documents are, where your notes are. Also do a review, past and future review. What worked well last year? As an organization, what did we really do well? That was, everybody enjoyed it, everybody loved it, everybody came out for it. What was that? What was that event? Right? What event didn't work so well? Because we really shouldn't do that one again. If that didn't work well, why are we going to do it again this year? If it hasn't worked well for us in the last 3 years, why are we going to do it on a 4th year? And that gives you an opportunity to generate a new idea, right? Review what you have in place for the coming year. Do we have enough time to do this? Do we have enough time to do that? What are we hoping that will come from this event? Oh, we heard a school did this. Maybe we could fit that in our school year. So I think there's a lot that you can do, but it takes some planning. And this is the time to do that planning. If you already know your team is in place, you can meet virtually. You don't have to meet in person. So you can do a lot of the planning right online. So don't let, oh, we couldn't get together to get in the way of a successful year. Because if you can't get together now, it's really difficult to try to make all that happen in the rest of the year. So we talked about where your bank documents, where are your where are your minutes and your notes and all of those things. Here's one other thing that we haven't really talked about this in a while, and so I want to put this out there. Please do not use your school's tax ID number, because that is a big no. right? Have your own tax ID number. And this is why I'm saying, take this time right now to locate your documents. So if you don't know where your ID number is, your tax ID number, your EIN number, right? There are some things that you can do. You can contact the IRS, and it may take some digging, but you can contact the IRS and they can dig up your EIN for you and give it to you. If you need to acquire a new one, you can do that as well. Please note that anything that's going to deal with banking, all right, we have to be very, very upfront about this. Anything that's going to deal with banking is going to require someone's name and someone's social. It's not my rule. It's not New York City Public Schools rules, right? This is the government's rule. So bank is going to ask you for your social security number. The bank is going to ask you for documentation. We can't get around that. But remember, even though you may be that name, you may be that number, that bank account does not belong to you. So here's what I suggest that you do. If at all possible, if you are succeeding someone in the role of president, get that person to go with you to the bank so that you can swap all the names and swap all the numbers, right? And be mindful of this, that when it's your time to move on, that you go with your successor and do the exact same thing. So please explain that to your members who are taking on this tremendous role and responsibility of PA presidents and executive board members, right? The bank accounts do not belong to any one person. They belong to the association. And as such, if there's a change in leadership, everybody needs to traipse over to the bank, change out all the information so that the new responsible parties, that's the term that they use. The new responsible party, their information is on that bank account. This is a standard practice in businesses all across the country, whether one is a nonprofit, whether one is for-profit. This is the way we do this in the US, okay? So I mentioned review last year, review this year. Shirley's already mentioned it. I'm going to reiterate it. Review your bylaws. Just make that a standard practice every August. Anytime between late June and August, review the bylaws. See what's working. A, did Central revise the reg? Did they make any changes to the regulation? Because if they did, then we have to make changes to our bylaws. No, they didn't make any changes. Let's take a look in these bylaws. What worked? Did something not work and we couldn't address it through the bylaws? Did the bylaws address every issue that we had last year? This is part of that review that you should be doing annually to make sure that those bylaws, as a living document, is fresh and new, right? It should be a document that lives and breathes and is ever changing as the needs of your association changes. So be really sure about that. Make sure that people, here's the time that you want to make sure, if you can't sit on the SLT, that you have someone who can sit on the SLT. You can't go to the DLT meetings, make sure that you have someone who can go to the DLT meetings. If you're a borough council, make sure that you have someone who's going to the DLT meetings in each of the districts in your borough, right? That should be coming from your membership. Why? In the immortal words of the great philosophical musical genius, Sting, you're never alone. You are never alone. Let me repeat that. You are never alone. And as such, you shouldn't be doing it all. That should not fall on the backs of one individual. That's why you have a team. That's why you have members. It's also a great way, and you've heard me say this in the past, right? Create pipelines of leadership. Create pipelines of leadership. A good leader is always looking at who can step in when I have to step out. That's what a good leader says. So you should be building pipelines of leadership. And They happen in small ways, right? I'm sure for some of you, everything got thrust upon you. For others, you had somebody who invited you to take on small responsibilities, and those smaller responsibilities grow into larger responsibilities. And you are where you are today. So don't, if everything was all put on your shoulders all at once, don't do that to someone else, because you know how hard it is. If you had the opportunity of being mentored, then you mentor someone, right? You do that by creating pipelines of leadership. This is all the things that you should be thinking about now. These are all the things that you should be thinking about that first and second week of September. Don't wait. And this is where I want you to encourage those schools that historically hold their elections in the fall, right? Because they don't get a chance to do this. They don't get a chance to do the serious planning to make a year successful without a whole lot of headache. I'm not going to say there's going to be any headache, but without a whole lot of headache. Every event should not be a headache, right? Every meeting should not be a headache. Every time someone mentions the word PA or President's Council, your heart should not be sinking to the bottom of your feet, right? It should be bringing you joy, because this type of work brings you joy. But you can mitigate some of that sinking feeling by doing some forward planning. And so that's what that's what I want to impart on you today. That's my not so secret gem, because so many of you know this, but so many of the people who come to your meetings don't do this. So help them to help themselves, right? Forward planning first starts with looking back, figuring out what worked, what didn't work, what didn't we do, what did we do, what didn't we have that we need to have, so that we can plan for all of those things moving forward. So with that, Shirley, I turn it back over to you. If you want me to try to answer some questions, I will try to do my very level best to talk about the one or two things about the thing or two that I do know, and we can go forward from there.
Thank you for that. We're going to entertain questions, but I see that Dr. Melendez would like to make a comment or statement, or maybe she even actually have a question.
I do not have a question. I have more of like just gratitude for just what Anthony has just shared. And I know that we want to enter these spaces with the best of intentions and hopeful spirit. And looking at the past is usually not a place where we want to start. And I understand that, but I also want to double down on the importance of really taking inventory of what happened last year, whether you were on the board or not, to set yourself up for success. It really does matter, because oftentimes autonomous bodies in all parts of our leadership structures want to look to us or PCs or CPAC or anybody to help them fix an issue. And it is really governed by your bylaws. And so this idea of looking back and saying, you know, what were some of the points of contentions, not trying to figure them out again, just saying, you know, what were some of the things that got us into some sort of an issue or concern just amongst each other. And then figuring out how do we then unpack that so that we're never here again. And then if we do get here again, what are some of the consequences or responsibilities that people who get here again will have to oblige by, right? So some of the things are interesting, like, you know, how do we call in this person, or how do we invite people to our meetings? Because the last time we had an issue was because this person was invited and added to the agenda and no one knew about it, right? Sometimes it's that simple. It's a good intention that goes bad because we kind of just impose it on a group of people and forget to have a conversation. But then you want us to fix it, or the PC to fix it. And all we can do is say, let's look at your bylaws. What do they say about inviting someone or adding items to your agenda, right? And then it becomes this thing where it's like nothing was there. And now we have a problem that people feel away and feel polarized, all based on a very wonderful idea. And so just basic things like that would be helpful to just hash out. And so making your bylaws longer doesn't make them bad. It just makes them clear. So invest the time in doing that so that you have a smooth year and no one is thinking about, well, the president said, and what does the president think? It's not. It's black and white in our bylaws. When we invite people, these are the steps we need to take, and we didn't, and therefore that person cannot come on the platform. It's not personal. We just didn't follow the rules. And that's, I can't, I know I went overboard here, but I need us to all understand that and share that with everybody that we support in our districts, because it's not a thing we do. And then you want face to fix it, and we just can't. We don't have a way to fix it other than to go back and help you look at your bylaws. So make those the most powerful tool that you have to stay in harmony with one another and work together better.
Awesome. I don't see no hands raised, but I put something in the chat. Those who are not looking at the chat, just keep in mind, I'm not going to reiterate because I think Dr. Melendez, Anthony Settle, I think we said it over and over, but keep in mind the bylaws cannot, never, ever contradict the chancellor's regulations or state law, right? Chancellor's regulations cannot contradict state law. Therefore, bylaws cannot contradict the regs. You have to be in compliance, right? So we're talking about just because you put it in your bylaws doesn't mean that it's correct if they go contract. They cannot supersede chancellor's regulations. That is the authority that your bylaws are based. The chancellor's regulations, if you don't know, is based on Education Law 2590, okay? So they have to be in compliance with state law. So the regs are in compliance with state law. If you're in compliance with the chancellor's regulations, you're good. You cannot supersede, okay, chancellor's regulations is wrong, we're gonna do this, right? That's absolutely a no-no. Just keep that in mind, because sometimes someone will be like, but our bylaw says we can do it. It contradicts the regs, you cannot do it. That's the bottom line.
Sure. Can I also add to that? Because I hear a lot very often, Robert's rules, Robert's rules, Robert's rules.
Yes.
Robert's rules is our way of helping your meetings to move forward, right? Robert's rules do not supersede your bylaws, do not supersede chancellor's regulations. We want you to use Robert's rules of order as a means to move your meeting forward in a organized way, in a way that allows all the members of your associations and your councils to be active participants in the meeting. And so they kind of create a framework of behavior, a framework of organization, a framework for making things work. But the bylaws is your document for your specific council, for your specific association that have to conform to chancellor's regulations. So as many of you have heard me say this, and I don't mean to belabor the point, but I do think it takes a little bit of belaboring. Chancellor's regulation requires that a PA or PTA holds at least 10 meetings per year between the months of September and June, or at least nine meetings per year between September and June. Sorry about that. Your bylaws tell us the day, and the time, and the place. Chancellor's regulation does not tell us where, when, and how. Your bylaws tell us that, right? And so your bylaws narrows what chancellor regulation requires. So that's why school A can meet on a Tuesday and school B can meet on a Thursday, right? Because chancellor's regulation doesn't say that everybody's got to meet on Wednesday at 3 p.m. So there's a lot of decision and freedom that you are given through the regulation that you memorialize for the operations of your association or your council. So I want to be clear. Robert's rules give us a framework in which how those meetings should run. But that Robert's rules do not supersede any of the previous documents that we just mentioned.
Absolutely. Robert's rule is where applies when the bylaws don't address that particular question or method of meetings norms. If your bylaws do not address it, that's when we apply Robert's Rules of Order. And there's a question, has there been an update for SLT in person versus hybrid for the new school year? So again, this is what school leadership team is subject to open meetings law. The open meetings law says quorum only can happen in person. This is before the pandemic. That's what happens. It applies to education councils. It is in person. Quorum only can be made in person. Now, observers, non-SLT members can join virtually, right? They can observe virtually or they can come in person, but team members must be in person. Team members, if you have it on your bylaws, your the hybrid option, but it's only if you have extenuating circumstances, which is spelled out in your bylaws, right? If you do not have extenuating circumstances and allow for members to join hybridly because of those circumstances, you cannot do that. It's, again, you're violating open meetings law. Again, quorum only can be met in person. So it behooves everyone to come in person. That is part of your roles and responsibility and should be understood when you decide to take that position or run for that position. That should be made clear. Okay, also another issue is that it should be, as per the regs, at the convenience of the parent stakeholders. Right? It should be at the parents' convenience of the stakeholders. So if there's an issue about the time and place, the timing of it, this needs to be discussed and then politely and diplomatically go to a 655, where it clearly states that the time of these meetings should be at the convenience of the stakeholders, right? The parent stakeholders. And it also includes about instructional hours. SOTs cannot happen during instructional hours. That's double dipping for the staff members of the school leadership team. I know it's difficult, but I've been saying this for 2 years. I know Randy also helped me out with the Julia. You need to go to your elected state legislator if you want it to change, right? You have to go to them. It is law. Open meetings laws, SOTs and education councils are subject to that. District leadership team is not, but SOTs are.
And neither are your PA or PTA meetings.
Yes, PA, PTAs are not subject to open. Everybody else is not subject to open meetings law in this process, except for PEP, education councils, and school leadership team. They are subject to open meetings law. So if you want it to change, you need to advocate to your state legislator for a change. Now, that hybrid portion, which I think a lot of people are not aware, for external circumstances, is temporary. It's not a permanent portion of the open meetings law. They just renewed it for 2 more years, right? Because it was supposed to expire June 19th of 2024. Now it is renewed for another 2 years for 2026. This was like a compromise, I guess. Governor Hochul extended that, but it's not a permanent part of open meetings law. Please keep that in mind. Again, if he wants this to change, you must advocate for change. But in the meanwhile, it is part of the roles and responsibility of school leadership team members. It's in person. It's in person. It's in person.
One of the other things that I neglected to say explicitly, I'm not a guru. I'm not a superhero when it comes to this stuff. I'm really not. I know a lot of people say I am. They say, "Oh, you're the go-to guy. You're the GOAT," but I'm not. I'm not any of those things. I am just a guy who can read, right? I think it's a really good idea as presidents of presidents' councils across the city that at each meeting, you take the regulation itself and review a section of the reg with your members. I'm not saying this to be glib or to be cute or any of those things, right? But you and I both know so many of our peers take on these positions at their schools because no one else is stepping up. And then they're given nothing. They say, do this, and then not given any roadmap, not given anything to say, this is how it's done, this is what's required, this is. So two things. And Brooklyn High School President's Council did this really well because they went from like barely having enough people to make quorum to their July meeting having 20. Help your, first of all, as presidents of presidents' councils, find out who are the newly elected presidents of PAs and PTAs in your district or in your borough. Make that a team thing. Make that something that you and your executive team do together so that, again, the burden's not all on one person, right? But find out who those new leaders are. Reach out to them, invite them to your meetings. And then when they come to the meetings, work with your FLC to make sure that at that meeting, everyone gets a copy of the regs and everyone gets a copy of the bylaw template. Then take that reg and then begin to dissect it and understand it, right? Go through it with them. Give them the tools that will make them successful. And I'm saying this to you as leaders of presidents' councils. Help them to understand what their roles and responsibilities are. Work with your FLC to work with PCs to help them understand what the role and responsibilities and what their role is in connection to working with their PA or PTA, right? But I think that that's really, if you want to build good leadership within your districts, I think that's one of the ways to start. Then everybody will be saying of you that you're the go-to person for Chancellor's Regulation A660 and A655, right? I'm just a guy who can read. Very often, as much as I do know about these documents, I confer with the team of people that are here at FACE about things that I'm pretty sure I know. Because I just want to make sure that what I'm going to tell somebody is correct, right? So I don't just say, oh, yeah. No, I say, hey, guys, I just got this situation. This is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And then we talk about it. And then we give the advice. But one of the things in doing that, that just means that all of us now on this team are going to be on the same page and giving out the same bit of advice. The same thing should happen for your executive boards at your president's councils, that you're all giving out the same advice, that you're all giving out the same kind of assistance to the PAs and PTAs in your district. But the first thing I think would be really helpful for you in your role as presidents of president's councils, working with your FLCs, because again, just as all of the president's councils are supposed to send their certifications to me, and I share them with Shirley and Randy, the FLC should be collecting all the certifications within the district or in the borough and then sharing it with you as the president of President's Council. Why? Because those are your members, those are your constituents. So I would say that if you can, before September gets here, we still got a few more weeks in this month, meet with your FLC, meet with your superintendent, work out your plan for your districts. Work out how you're going to support PAs and PTAs in your districts or in your boroughs, right? And work very closely with them, and then reach out to them, find out who they are, personally invite them to attend your meeting. Don't just put, we're having a meeting. We want you to come, make them feel welcomed. And then when you get them in the room, say, hey guys, this is our Bible. This is what we follow. This is our Quran. This is the document that this is our Constitution. This is what we have to do. And then start to go through it section by section. What are your responsibilities? How do you do elections? How do you run meetings? What do you do with finances? Because we still get people who come in and they like, nobody would run, so I ran. But and they don't even know that you exist as a president's council, right? They don't even know that you exist. They don't even know who to go to for help. So don't wait for them to call you. You make the call to them, right? And personally invite them. But here's my superpower that I'm sharing, that I'm going to give away to you. Read. Just read. That's all. You won't have to question about what something says, because it'll be there in black and white. And if it's not there in black and white, you can say, you know what? You can further define this now in your own bylaws. So my superpower is your superpower. I'm just a guy who knows one or two things about a thing or two, and who happens to be able to read.
All right, thank you, Anthony. I know I had a point, but I forgot what it is. I am getting old, but I would like to give Randy a chance to speak in this regard. She talked about it a little bit, but you want to add anything? Because again, you got to lead by example. So if you're doing the work, action speaks louder than words. We all know that. They see you doing it. And part of our responsibilities, and I say we as parent leaders, particularly presidents, right? You are to develop leaders. That is specifically one of your roles and responsibilities, is leadership development, right? That was Anthony is talking about. Leadership development, building that capacity that Adriana and we so many times have said, got to build capacity. It only strengthens our voice as a whole. It also only strengthens our understanding of the regs, the way functions, and how we fit in this giant puzzle of New York City public schools on helping our children. We are pieces of puzzles put together makes us strong. So if we have holes, especially in that parent voice, we're going to have disconnects. We're going to have misunderstanding. We're going to have lack of knowledge, right? We need to have that to really strengthen our parent voice. And, and I'm not saying you Face, because I think Face is the only one left. I'm not saying you individually, but as a whole, right? Central, y'all just parents. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. But when you can quote the regs at your SLT, at a PAPTA, at your president's council, here on this platform, and wherever there is, they know that they're dealing with knowledgeable people, and we're not just talking because we just want to talk, right? We need to be able to articulate, and that goes back to, respectfully with the opinions, or how to approach SLTs so you don't seem like you're a difficult person. But, the regs states here, it's not wrong to bring up the regs, because that is your foundation. That is what articulates your point of view. That is what the regulation dictates, right? So the only way you can articulate your points is bringing up to show that we know how the structure is supposed to be. This is what it is. We need to show knowledge. Knowledge is power, and we forget. And we want all our stakeholders, members, to be knowledgeable. That is what strengthens this parent voice, right? Because it can't be the same. Even though, yes, we're elected, it can't be the same people always talking. We're not going to always be here. And we get tired too, right? It looks better when all of us are on the same page, talking about a specific point that we need to change because it affects our children. You got to keep that in mind, right? And then, even though we should get that respect, but we're going to get even more respect. They're going to have to approach us differently, or they know what they're talking about, right? Sometimes, and then not all, and we're not talking about Anthony and Jesse or Cristina or anybody in Face in particular, but I know we have run into different stakeholders on different levels who don't respect that parent voice, or have the perception, oh, you're just a parent, right? You're just a parent. You don't need to know. You just do as I say. We, by our actions and by our knowledge and support of one another, let them know that doesn't work, and that is not the truth. And where in my opinion, is one of the most important stakeholders, because guess what? It's our child, it's our children. We brought them into this world, right? One way or another, we are responsible for their well-being and their education. And we should have, our say should be recognized and respected. At the same token, you also have to understand that we are not going to get everything that we want, because we don't have all the factors either, right? But you got to also remember that we are not going to always get our way 100% or what we want. And but the expectation is to be explained why this wouldn't work, why it can't be, because we do not have all the factors that, the decisions that's made at the New York City Public School central level. So please keep that in mind too, because you got to have an open mind and got to understand that they will appreciate what you're saying, and probably will take it in mind, but we'll never get 100% what we want. And today we got what we wanted, again, because this is the second time the emails are being paused, right? To being paused, because they understand that this is the way we show our volunteerism, and it has to be not a hardship for us, because we already have a lot of barriers. So just keep that in mind, because partnership and understanding works both ways. Now, I said more than I had intended, but I think I covered what I wanted to say before. So Randy, would you like to add to that? So, and then anyone else, so then we could wrap up our meeting.
Sure. I just wanted to add, when you were still discussing the SLT, for anyone that does want to have hybrid meetings, I posted the template that Shirley and I worked on in the chat. So if you just scroll up, you'll see that on the hybrid meetings. There's a separate one for elementary and middle schools and another one for high schools. So if you're interested in adding, there's also some useful stuff that we have added in there as well. As far as president's councils, offer your PAPTAs one-to-one trainings for anyone who needs it. Since we're in a virtual world, it's so easy to do. And as you're going along, you can share your screen, drop things in the chat, and this way everyone gets it. Also, over the summer, your principals are working, unless you know that they're on vacation. Find out if you can have a meeting with your executive board and them now to plan upcoming dates for the school year. You can look at the school's calendar and the regular like holiday calendar, and see what your bylaws say for your PTA meetings, so you can set them and know if you have to go a week before, back, whatever your bylaws say, and expectations to sending out your paperwork. If your paperwork has to go out 10 days in advance, have a meeting with your principal and ask them, when do you need it in order for it to go out 10 days in advance? You can't expect to send something to somebody today and say, oh, I need this to go out tonight school-wide. It doesn't work that way. So those are things that you can start working on now to start planning. Make sure you go to the bank. All 3 core members are signatories. You have to go to the bank together to get the paperwork taken care of. If this is a formal review for your bylaws, form your bylaws committee at your September meeting. Have it on your agenda prepared already. I have my September agenda prepared already. So have that on there. Survey your parents on if they want the format, in person, hybrid, or virtual for PTA meetings. All those things that you're thinking about, your welcome letter. My school does like a summer bridge where they invite the incoming students over the summer to meet their classmates and their advisories. So you can go as a PTA president and speak to your principal if that's okay, to come in and give your welcome letter and attach that envelope. Let me tell you, that envelope is so important. You have to spend money to make money. If you attach that envelope to that welcome letter for your membership donations, you will definitely get like at least half more than you planned on getting. Just that envelope itself makes such a big difference. So please use that envelope, put a label on it. And if you're looking to create a distribution list, add email address to there and put a little asterisk to say, by giving us your email address, you're allowing us to send you information about PTA meetings and other school information. So all those things are helpful to plan now, and it will make your life so much easier when September starts. Short, sweet.
Awesome.
I kept it short.
Yeah, no, it's okay. But before I let you speak, Adriana, there was a question which Randy did answer in the chat, but for those who didn't see it, Well, I know the YouTube didn't see it. Is SLT annual evaluation form still in use? That's a definite yes. Our June meeting, we said, and we even shared it with our members, the form, right? Which is also found in the A655 to do your annual review of the principal who receives the completed documentation. So at our June meeting, it goes to the superintendent or superintendent office. Some districts I know send it to the FLC, who then, you know, give it to the superintendent. Everyone should be filling that out. And I know it doesn't say, it only says parent. And at our June meeting, we had said going forward, cross out parent, put constituency group, and you don't sign it. It should be anonymous so people don't feel uncomfortable and give their honest evaluation. So everyone gets that form but the principal. And in a sense to the district office. You know, you can speak to your particular district on how in receiving those documents for the school leadership team. Who it should be addressed to, who it should go to, but it should be going to the district office because the superintendent is supposed to read that evaluation. So it is happening. We did set it in June. I think we also said it in May, and we also told our members, we gave them the members the form to fill out. And you know, so hopefully soon A655 regulations will be updated. And the reflection of that, the principal's evaluation form will be updated so that it is anonymous, right? So at this time. So Adriana, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that question was answered and we did receive it from YouTube. And thank you, Charlene and Adriana, go ahead.
Thank you. Before we are done, I wanted to point out on the CPAC website, our co-chairs and whoever manages our website or whoever else manages it have been very diligent in making sure that not only the minutes and things like that are posted to the website, but you can also find different resources and different guides, not only from the DOE, but things that CPAC has put together. I know that there is a very extensive glossary on here, right? The DOE can be very alphabet soup. And for people who are new or parents who are new, even if they're, even if they're only coming to your meeting sporadically, they should know what all of these acronyms mean. They should know what all of these terms mean, who all of these people are. So with all of that, make sure you familiarize yourself also so that you can speak not in layman's terms, but in regular people speak and not in alphabet soup. That's all. Thank you, guys.
I appreciate that. Yes, there's a lot of resources on that website and on the school, New York City Public School website as well. There's a lot of resources there for us to take advantage. You know, you might feel it's time consuming, but it's important because when you do the research, right? Because we tell our child, go use the dictionary. Why? Not because we don't know the answer. It's because so they can retain that information. So the more that we use our resources, the more we do trainings, more that we attend trainings, the more information is retained, right? You think Anthony, who's his superpower is reading. That's why he knows that, and also putting into practice, right? You think me and Randy got the regs memorized? That's definitely not, right? But doing the training, having these conversations helps you retain the information and even better putting it into practice. So if anybody else don't have anything else to say, I'm going to share my slides so we could bring it to an adjournment. I'm looking, anybody else? No? Oh, all right, so I'm going to share my slide. You know, and I like my slides, and I'm going to tell you because I don't remember everything. A picture or something helps me remember the conversation or the point I would like to make. So some of you might think the slides are pretty, but it really is a tool for me, and it helps those who are visual, not only to hear my boring voice or Randy's boring voice. I don't think Randy's voice is boring, but mine is. So you have a visual effect, so you can look at that as well. Our next meeting is scheduled for September 12th. It's virtual, of course. It'll go back to our regular time at 9:30. it's summer. If you haven't gone there to enjoy the beach or the park or do some amazing self-care or activities that you don't normally do during the normal school year, please take the time to do that now. Again, thank you for those who have hair. We will review June 13th and June 27 minutes at our September meeting. And hopefully that September meeting, we will have quorum. We fell one short today, so we will not review those. But thank you. And I think this is an example of just because you don't have quorum doesn't mean you do not continue with your meeting, right? You just can't vote. You can't review you can't adopt your minutes, et cetera, but you can still hold your meeting, right? There's still information to be shared. It just won't be official. So we encourage that you continue with the meeting, even though quorum is not held. You're going to have your meeting as if, except for there'll be no voting, no making no decisions. And that's what quorum allow us to do. So, and those who had their elections and already, please send in those certification forms. Have your FLC send them in to Anthony Settle so you can be on this platform, because I'm pretty sure more had their elections. They just, haven't set their, the election certification is the verification needed. So you're our CPAC member. So I thank you for everybody's cooperation. And at this time, I would like someone, because I can't do it, to bring this meeting to an adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, so Erica beat you with the voice and raise hand. So Erica has adjourned our meeting, and Manhattan Heights did, which is our CPAC corresponding secretary, adjourned it, and our Manhattan High School President's Council rep has seconded that. The time is now 12:28. Our meeting is officially adjourned. Wonderful ladies and gentlemen, enjoy the rest of your summer. Get that rest, and we will see you September 12th. But we are here for assistance in the meanwhile. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone. Let's stop the live stream.